at LinkedIn. He has a couple of interesting sidelines. One is as an award-winning rock music and rock concert photographer. There you go. So I don't know whether he's going to be crowd surfing like Minds today. I'm not quite sure. But he's a professor of marketing at UCLA, out on the West Coast. And he wrote, "Welcome to the Funnel, Proven Tactics to Turn Your Social Media and Content Marketing Up to 11. So there's another rock reference there. I'm very privileged to welcome to the stage our next Like Mind speaker. Please welcome Jason Miller.
Hey, thank you. All right, hi everyone. Thank you for the warm intro. Lovely to be here. So I have a different kind of take on content and social, which I'm going to talk about today. But my background, I used to work at Sony Music Entertainment. I used to do artist development. So I and at no point in my entire life did I ever say crossed my mind. Somehow I fell into this, but I kept my ties to the music industry through my concert photography, and I have a blog about rock and roll. So any of the photos in here of musicians who are alive, they're ones that I took. But this is called Innovation in Content Marketing starts with a reality check, and this is a story of how I look at content. This is how I think folks will be successful in 2018 with content, and these are the actual results from my team. So, this little guy here, this guy's been causing all sorts of problems for us content marketers. Do you know where I'm going with this? The goldfish attention span myth. So, in May of 2015, a whole host of reputable publications began publishing these headlines that said that humans now have a shorter attention span than a goldfish, 9 seconds versus 8 seconds, right? But what happened was, if you look at where they cited this source from, ironically it comes from a Microsoft survey that came out in Canada the same year. And the news got so excited about this stat, but they didn't do their due diligence to see where the stat actually came from. So if you research where this stat came from, Microsoft's study didn't claim they came up with the stat. They sourced it back to a website called Statistics Brain. Now, Statistics Brain links it back to nothing. They invented this stat. It does not exist, right? So, but it really puts things into perspective, because it talks about, does marketing have its own fake news problem? Are marketers running to be first instead of right? And when you see a stat like this, it's really important for us to question where it came from. Now, the good news is there's never been a scientific study on the duration of a human's attention span versus a goldfish. Take it a step further, there's never been a study on the duration of a goldfish's attention span. It just doesn't exist, right? So, but what really bothers me is that this has been used as an argument to dumb down your content, because you have to fit it into this 8-second attention span that does not exist, right? So the term snackable content is defined by the Urban Dictionary as content that is meant to be consumed within 8 seconds. Now, Urban Dictionary is not the definitive source for anything credible. We all know that. But it just goes to show that marketers jump on bandwagons way too quickly, right? So, if these folks who were quoting this goldfish study actually read the report, they would have found something very different. They would have found that digital media is not killing attention spans. We use our attention far more efficiently than any other point in history. We are far better at multitasking, able to divide our attention among several different things without compromising our focus. We're better than ever at processing and encoding information through short bursts of high attention. Smartphones are not killing attention spans. And finally, the main focus of our more efficient attention span is to find content that's worth paying attention to for longer periods of time. Those are much different findings than this glorified stat. Now, if you take into account what we know about neuroscience, when the brain sees a piece of content that it engages with, it gets a hit of dopamine. And it primes you to watch that source again, so that you will engage with that content. You're much more likely to engage with that content again. Now, if you're focusing on this 8-second attention span, you're killing your strategy, because you're not giving that hit of dopamine, and you're not going to be seeing the second time around. So I'd like to put the goldfish attention span myth to sleep tonight. I see this thing quoted. You can search Twitter right now. You will see 15 people quote it in the last 15 minutes. I promise you that. I actually wanted to reply back to somebody and say, hey, you should really research this, but my wife said I was being a jackass. So I didn't do it. Anyway, so where does that leave us with content marketing? Well, I believe that long-form content is the answer, right? So this is a chart from our friends at backlinko.com. They did some research and they found out that long-form content ranks higher in search. That's a good thing, right? So the longer, like 1,500-word blog posts, that seems to be the magical number. Now, our good friends BuzzSumo, they took it a step further and they analyzed over 400,000 posts. And what they found was that 50% or less, or 50% of these articles get 8 shares or less. Many times, the author isn't even sharing the post themselves. How embarrassing is that? So what does that say? It says we're moving too quick. We're pushing out so much content that our audience can't possibly consume it. We can't all be the HubSpots of the world where we have 42 people creating content and posting 7 blogs a day. It's no longer a game. It's no longer a numbers game. It's a game of relevance. And how do you get to relevance? Well, I present to you the new model. This is called Wait But Why. Tim Urban is the gentleman who founded this site. And it's quite a remarkable story. It's a long-form blog. 31 million unique visitors. 87 million page views through only 80 articles. Right? So Tim Urban wrote this piece explaining artificial intelligence. Elon Musk liked it so much that he called him up and said, Tim, I can't possibly explain AI better than you. Will you tell my story of AI on your blog? So he did. He wrote 10 blog posts, rolled it into a book. It's an international bestseller. Slow down, right? So where does that leave us? Oh, and each one of these posts got 2,000 shares. Now, before you say, oh, but shares are a vanity metric. That's a silly, silly thing. That's like 2012 mentality. Now, shares, the search engines will not tell you that social signals directly influence rankings. But what shares do is it amplifies your content and gets it in front of more eyes, right? The more people see it, the higher your conversion rate goes. And I will tell you, I would argue with anybody, the conversion rate is a top 3 contender with backlinks and relevance when it comes to rankings, right? So it does matter. They're not vanity metrics, right? It's the Osler brothers. Anyway, my point is, Ann Hanley at Content Marketing World 2 years ago, she said, slow down. It was the biggest takeaway I could find. So I took my team and I said, we're going to shut everything down. We're not going to post every day. We were posting 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. And the blog might not be the sexiest piece of social media, but it's certainly the most important, right? Keep that in mind. This is different than a resource center. A resource center is an indexed library of your content. A blog is your story. It's a running narrative. It's moving in one direction. It's got likes, shares, comments, plus ones. It's living, it's breathing. It's indexed within seconds, right? The blog is the most important tool when it comes to telling your story and when it comes to content to promote with your demand gen strategy or your acquisition for your B2C folks. So, where does that leave us? We posted, very dramatic, Carmina Burana. We posted 3 times a week. And I wanted to figure out how, like with all the relevance and content you have to be publishing, you have to get fresh content out there for the search engines, I wanted to see what's the minimum amount we could post without getting dinged by the search engines. And through many, many conversations with the leading SEO minds on the planet, we came down to the answer of being 1. 1 post a week. If you can muster up one 1,500-word plus blog post that's referenceable, that's entertaining, and that's well written, you can get results like this. So, 3 posts. We focus on 3 types of posts now with my team. We have power pages. These are 2,000 plus word blogs owning very long tail keywords. We're going after a conversation. We want to own it very quickly. We're going to go after this. The power page. Very basic titles. How do you advertise on LinkedIn? We want to go after that. We want to answer questions. Very strategic, drives conversions, right? Number 2, strong opinions. Very important for you to have an opinion. You need someone on your team that has an opinion that's worth writing about, that's worth sharing. Now, and then the final piece of this puzzle is research. Now, another takeaway from Content Marketing World a couple of years ago, and still relevant today, is Andy Crestodino, one of the smartest marketers I know, came back and he said, research gets link backs. It just doesn't even have to be your own research. This can be research, third-party research that you reference and take an idea and push it forward, or put your thoughts around it, put a different frame of reference around it, right? And strong opinions get shares. And the power page owns the conversation. These 3 types of posts are all you need to do for a successful content marketing strategy moving into 2018. So, Do you know how long it took to sync those stats with the Canon? You guys were supposed to say fire, by the way. Anyway, so these are the results in the first 6 months of the year, right? So just from following that strategy, 242% increase in unique page views, 128% increase in total shares, 146% increase in average time on page, 67% increase in average shares, 8% decrease in bounce rate, and 312% increase year over year in organic search. These are crazy numbers. What this is basically saying is that we're posting less, but conversions and traffic are up. We're slowing down, right? So this gives us room. We made a magazine with all of our content, slowing down, not posting every single day. We took our best content of the year and repackaged it up, getting more leverage, and we created a magazine. I put myself on the cover as a test image. I didn't think it would get through the editorial team, but it did. And I was having trouble getting rights to other people's images, so I gave myself permission to use my likeness. So, the great Steven Tyler from the band, thank you. You'd be surprised how many people don't get that. Famously said in the 70s, we believe anything that was worth doing was worth overdoing. Now, Steven Tyler was not talking about content marketing. But I like overkill. I like to drive things into the ground that are working until they stop working. So, now we have this great content. How do we put it to the test? How do we do more with less? How do we expand the reach of this? How do we focus on promoting the best content and getting as many eyeballs as we possibly can until it's time to slit its throat and bury it in the desert? I can't believe it. Is this being recorded? I can't believe I just said that. Anyway, so the lost art of A/B testing on LinkedIn, right? I think it used to be kind of cool around AdWords and doing all the cool A/B testing, but nobody talks about it anymore. But I want to show you how important this is to our strategy. So a couple of things really quick. If you're posting something to LinkedIn, and you let that little thumbnail pre-populate instead of uploading a custom image, you're losing conversions, right? So just by adding that rich media, that image, taking a little bit of time, you'll see up to a 38% higher click-through rate than just letting that thumbnail pre-populate. So this is where we get into the fun stuff, a little bit of A/B testing here. Every time we create a piece of content, one of these blog posts, we have 15 pieces of creative to go with this, to test the hell out of this, right? So we changed the word guide to, guide versus ebook. And we did the same exact everything. The guide saw a 100% increase in CTR. So what do? We shifted all the budget over to this post and we ran it into the ground, right? Then we took a person versus an object. Should be no surprise. The image with the face saw a 160% increase in CTR, 290% increase in conversions. This is money on the table that you would never know if you're not testing. Finally, here we have stat versus a quote. Which one do you think won? Well, the image with the quote saw a 30% lift in CTR. You might be thinking, oh, 30%. There could be a $25,000 deal in one of those conversions. It could be a first touch. You never really know. So I'll take anything I can get. Now, this is brand new from the LinkedIn labs. I love this one. Does wood grain feel more authentic or provide more visual interest? Hell if I know. But it got 32% more clicks. And then this one. This is the greatest A/B test I've ever seen in my life. We took the dude's head and turned it to look at the CTA. And look at those results, 89% increase in click-throughs. How ridiculous is that? He's a good-looking guy, I'll give him that. But yeah, we just turned his head. So, put on your marketing seatbelts, folks. This is where it gets crazy. Running sponsored content in the feed, along with InMail, we're seeing a 25% increase in open rate and 95% increase in CTR, right? I want to show you how crazy this gets with InMail. InMail on LinkedIn, you get a 60-day share of voice on this, meaning every member on LinkedIn can only get one sponsored InMail message per 60 days. So you have that whole window, right? But look at these CTRs. It's coming from a person, right? You get a little bit of creative in there. 5% CTR, 75% open rate, 6% CTR, 61% open rate. If you're a good marketer and you're getting 1%, 2% click-through rate, you can keep your job. If you're getting this, you're getting promoted. An open rate, 22%, I think is a good benchmark for B2B. These are nuts. But what would happen next completely blew my mind. This is an InMail sent out from myself to about 8,000 or 9,000 people. We had a 95% open rate. How does that happen? Most marketers check their metrics, the week of, day of, couple weeks out, right? But if you watch what happens with that window, that share of voice, you can see almost 60 days out, almost every person opened this email. That's insane. That's where we're at. That is called relevance. This is all powered by the content that I just showed you, right? Oh. Are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah, no, I've literally got it here in my inbox.
Can I put your face up there next time? It's like this is a real person, evidence. So again, now that we've slowed down, we also have time to take our blogs and translate them and localize them. Now, we don't have blogs in Spain or France or Germany, but I figured out, like, what's the worst case scenario if we took our top performing content, translated it, and put it out there on the English blog? We're promoting the blog, direct traffic to the blog, so what's the worst can happen? They get there and they bounce, right? Who cares about bounce rate anymore? I don't really care. Are they consuming the content? Is there a need for the content? Do we have to build a case to get a French blog, a German blog, a Spanish blog? And these are the results. We took our top 6 posts, translated them, 3 into French, 3 into English, 34,000 page views. Now you're thinking, but you're LinkedIn, you get this. There's LinkedIn proper, which it markets to all 550 million members, and there's LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, which is the team that I lead up. So LinkedIn doesn't promote our content because it's not relevant to their audience. So we had to build everything from the ground up, my team, my very small team, which I'll show you in a second. But when I started with our blog, we had 12 subscribers. 9 of them were internal. We had 666 unique page views a month. That is the number of the beast. It's a fantastic Iron Maiden record, but not a good number for unique page views for a blog. So as of this morning, between our North America blog and our EMEA blog, we're up to 160,000 uniques a month and about 75,000 subscribers around the world. And it's all from doing exactly what I'm showing here. Slowing down, taking time to promote the best content. You're going to gain authority. It's going to drive conversion. It's going to drive traffic. It's going to drive revenue. This is, what? If I had to rank events in my life, it would be the birth of my daughter, wedding day, Guns N' Roses in Las Vegas. I took this shot, and it's the story of Axl Rose coming to LA. Anybody know this story, where the song came from? And he got off a bus. I think it was from Cleveland, funny enough. He got off the bus, and some drug pusher said, "Do you know where you are?" He said, "Welcome to the jungle." I'm not kidding. That's how the song started. That was Axl Rose's first step to the streets of LA. And look at them today. Anyway, my point is, once you have all this activity, right? You got the paid, the organic. Don't let anybody tell you organic is dead. Like, claiming something is dead in marketing is just passé, right? It's dead in itself. How do you get that amplified even further? Well, the next step is employee advocacy. We always talk about this. This is low-hanging fruit, people. This is organic reach. This is what it looks like. Through our own research at LinkedIn, we found that employees' combined connections on social networks are, on average, 10x larger than companies' followers, right? Take a step further. Only 3% of employees share content, yet they generate 30% of all content engagement for a typical business, and employees get 2x higher CTRs. Makes sense, right? Because it's trusted coming from the employees more. So this is the journey of every 6 pieces of content shared on LinkedIn. This is what happens. 6 job views. It influences 6 job views, 3 company page views, 1 company page follower, 6 profile views, and 2 new connections established. Now, what does that say to you? It says when your sales team or anybody, the IT folks say, "What's in it for me?" HR team says, "What's in it for me?" There's something in here for everybody, right? It builds your personal brand. It gives you authority in the space. It can build you up as a thought leader. But there's something in sharing for everyone. Now, you need a way to track all this too, right? So I did a test last year, and I shared 3 pieces of content a day from the blog, from the LinkedIn blog. Very simple, 3 pieces of content a day during the week, and I tracked at the end of the year 23 million in additional reach and 60,000 additional events of engagement. That is organic. Don't tell me organic is dead. Here's the actual numbers. We track it using our employee advocacy tool, Elevate, but those are the actual numbers. This is free. The platform's not free, but the reach is free, and it's trusted, and it converts higher, right? And you're getting more with your content. That is Jim Gillette. That is real. He is the singer of Nitro. That is my ringtone. Anybody know the band Nitro? oh man, these guys are insane. Like, just Google it. You'll thank me later. So, the other thing that I just learned recently, and this is all kind of brand new, is what happens when you write something that you're so proud of and you put it out in the world and it just doesn't perform. It happens quite a bit. Well, we found out that you can just change that title a little bit and test it, right? And you can breathe new life into content. So for example, we took this piece of content that the North American team produced called Spotlight on Best Practices. Boy, that's a zinger of a title, isn't it? It really performed terrible. But the content was so good. It was basically LinkedIn using LinkedIn and showing you how to be advertised like we do and how to get the highest conversion rates. So we took it, my team took this content, and we turned it into this. Learn the secret sauce of LinkedIn on LinkedIn for marketers, right? And this thing just went through the roof. But the cool thing is the Namer team took it back, and we actually got to send something back to them for a change. Instead of like localizing all their content, we just stopped the press, and they actually took this around with us. And it converted 100x over Spotlight on Best Practices, arguably the worst title of any piece of content I've ever seen. And I want to just finish by saying, everything that I showed you, the results, and this is a shorter version of a bigger keynote that I do with some extra stuff I edited specifically for this. But we created this. There's all these influencer lists out there, right? 50 influencers for this, 50 influencers for that. And so I wanted to build just a different kind of a list. And so I took my team. That's my team there in the front. Like 5-6 people, created everything, all those results, and that's just EMEA specific. But my point is if you have the right partners, we have one agency that we use, we have a couple of writers on contract, and then we have the team. So don't say that you can't do this, and don't say that you can't grow this stuff and build a strategy. I've been doing this at LinkedIn for 4 years, and we're tracking the influence of our content, and it's influencing millions and millions and millions of dollars of deals, right? And it's working. We're the authority. And the conversation keeps going. So we created this is called a different kind of list. It's called 50 Marketers Who Inspire Me and my team. And we just put together a list of people, no ranking order, just folks who we like and appreciate. You can see Jerry Seinfeld in there, Stephen Hawking's in there, Richard Branson, the list goes on and on. So my point is, it's not the size of the team. It's what you do when you slow down, create referenceable, remarkable content, and then amplify the hell out of it, right? This is my book, Welcome to the Funnel. Sold a few copies. This is my new baby, my project, down in front. It's a story of how I became a professional concept photographer over 4 years. It's 1 million photos, thousands of bands. I got it down to 178 photos. It's on Kickstarter right now. There are 4 days left to get in on this. We've already beat our goal by 200%, but this is my new baby that I have to launch when I get back next week. And that's it. Thank you.
Wow, how about that? Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for Jason Miller. Yeah. Is anyone who's seen Jason's slides surprised how many people open his emails? I mean, it's good, isn't it? Should we all just stand up just for less than a minute, just very quickly, because I know it's getting to my least favorite time of the day, 4 p.m. But don't worry, it's going to be a good 4 p.m. today, because we've got a pitch fest on the horizon. Would you like to meet our next guest? Yes, okay, well, let me introduce her in 1 minute, just a chance to sort of shake it all about, really. Please have a seat. Our next guest has worked for, well, companies that chart my life's enjoyment, really. Disney, Bacardi, Channel 4. And right now, sitting at home, I have a package from a very special company, and every time I get stuff from them, I smile, and that company is Moo. Our next guest is the head of design at Moo, and she is hugely welcome to the stage of Like Minds. Please welcome Lisa Campana.
Hi, good afternoon. So today I'm going to speak to you actually about some of the topics that we covered earlier today. And that's really this. Firstly, brand. What is it? And secondly, personality. And I think sometimes we just get so caught up in certain aspects of building our business that we actually kind of skip this step. And it's really important. And we're going to talk about why. So first of all, just to introduce myself, I'm Lisa Campana, as Ollie said, and I'm head of design at Moo. Moo are an e-commerce-based digital print and design company. We've been around for just over 10 years, and we have offices both in the US and in London. My team is the creative team, and we kind of do all the pretty stuff, as some people say. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us, I have just a really short reel just to give you a little bit of a taste of what we do. So that's us, that's Moo. And in the past in my organization, my team has sometimes been referred to as the brand team. And I've heard this in other organizations in the past where there's this like notion that there's like one team in your business responsible for like your entire brand. And you know, we all know these guys, right? They're these guys, they're like the brand police. Nobody wants to be that team. And if there's one message I just really want you to all take away from this talk today, it's this. We are all the brand team. Every person in your organization is part of your brand. And treating everyone as such is really key to your brand success. So firstly, what is a brand? And I think there's this common misconception often between branding and a brand. So branding are basically certain elements of your brand, such as your logo, your fonts, your color palette. But a brand is something much, much bigger. A brand is essentially your customer's perception of your company or your organization across all the touch points that they encounter. So for instance, perhaps you're a founder of a company. You are your brand. Your marketing is your brand. Your logo, your website, your user experience, your tone of voice, all the way through to your customer service. So let's just look at some research that actually backs this up. So there's a gentleman by the name of Daniel Kahneman, who is a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist. And in 2010, he did a TED Talk called The Riddle of Experience versus Memory. And in this talk, he introduced this concept of the two selves. And it goes as thus. We all basically have two parts to how we experience things and form memories. We have the experience self, and this is the part of us that lives in the present. This is the part of us that processes the experience as it's happening. And on the other hand, we have the remembering self. And this is the part of us that makes the memories. And it does this through storytelling. So let's look at an example of this. So say you have a customer. They see an ad for your business or your product. They go to your website. They're able to find what they're looking for. Maybe they even register. They're able to purchase. And this was fairly straightforward. The experience self registers that as a positive experience. And at this point, we're all thinking, whoa, brilliant, job done. However, a week goes by, 2 weeks. And finally, your product arrives, and it's damaged. And your customer is like scrambling to find your customer services number. Finally, they find it, and they ring, and they're like put on hold for like 15 minutes. And finally, they get to talk to somebody, and that person's unhelpful. The remembering self processes this as a memory, not just of that last part of the experience, but of the experience as a whole, as a negative one. So hopefully this illustrates that why, when building your brand, you need to really pay attention to every single touch point your customer comes into contact with you. So that the overall experience of your brand is a positive one, because this is really what we're all aiming for, right? And we know that when done right, brands have this like real power of attraction. Like, what is that? How does that happen? And there's some interesting science behind this. Sorry. There's a gentleman by the name of Peter Murray, and this was a study published in Psychology Today. And his research actually found that customers perceive the same type of personality characteristics in brands as they do in people. And these attractions are emotion-based. Of course they are. We're humans. We're emotional beings. So in other words, what his research found is that your customer sees a bit of their personality in your brand. And if you think of a brand you truly love, just stop and consider this for a moment. So, I will give an example. I have an iPhone. I've often thought about buying an Android, and actually I've designed some apps for Android, and I understand all the great functionality that Android phones have to offer, but I'm a designer. And as a designer, I relate to Apple as a brand. And this is a really, really tough bond to break. So unless Apple actually do something to just like totally piss me off, I'm most likely to always stay a loyal Apple customer. You see, we perceive the expression of emotion and personality not only in things in our environment, but also in products and interfaces and websites. So if you don't consider your product's personality when you're building your brand, you might not actually be giving off the sort of impression you're intending. So, how do you find your brand personality? I mean, where do you start? And the best place to start is by asking just one simple question, and that's this: why? Why should customers care about your product? And this really comes down to your organization's mission, vision, and purpose. This is the reason why all of us go to work for the company or organization that we work for, because it is very unlikely that any of us would work for a company or organization whose values didn't somewhat align to our own. So doesn't it just make sense that actually your customers would respond to this same thing? So a great place to start is with your company's mission statement. Now, your mission statement is really your company's core purpose. It's your reason for existing beyond just making a profit. Every company should have one. So let's just quickly look at some examples. So for instance, can anybody guess whose mission statement this is? I heard it. Very quiet. Yes, this is Facebook. And actually, if you look at Mark Zuckerberg's profile, he's actually got it right there. It's on his intro. This is how he introduces his company. And this is another one. Actually, I think this one's quite easy.
Airbnb.
Yes, exactly. This is Airbnb. And Airbnb really do embody this idea of belonging everywhere, belonging anywhere, sorry. They have it. They use it not just in their marketing, but also on their website. It's even there. It's in their search bar, this concept of anywhere. So they really embody this. And this is ours. This is Moo. So our mission statement is, we believe in great design for everyone. The next step is really kind of distilling this down into a set of relatable human characteristics. And these are what's known as your brand's characteristics. This really is your brand's personality. The best way to think about this is, if your brand were a person, how would you describe them? They need to be relatable characteristics, and they need to be authentic to your brand. You cannot copy somebody else's. You know how you can always tell when somebody kind of comes across a bit fake? Your customers can too. So it's important that they are authentic to you. So this is where we started. We started with, we believe in great design for everyone. And we kind of split this apart and looked at it in two different areas. And we started with great design. And we workshopped this across the business. And we got people from different areas across the business. And we all asked them the same question: what is great design? And we got lots of answers. You know, people said things like, well, you know, it's consistent, it's useful, functional. We even got life-changing, which is great. But when you think about it, really, what is the single most important thing from a customer's point of view? And we landed on helpful. And actually, there's a paragraph of text in our mission statement which describes exactly this. It's about helping people and businesses of all sizes make their mark on the world. So next, we started to look at helpful and what does that mean to different areas in the business. And we whiteboarded this. And this is an example of my team in creative. And actually, specifically, we were looking at photography. What does helpful mean to that? And we came up with things like, well, being consistent, being clear, showing scale, maybe even textures, showing really close-ups of our products. So next, we looked at the second part of that statement, for everyone. And we did the same thing, same people, and we asked them, who's everyone? Who are we for? And again, all sorts of answers, designers, non-designers, small businesses, big businesses. But when we boil it all down, really, we're human, we're for humans. And this characteristic is actually really just, it grounds us. Because anybody who knows Moo in the past, we tend to go a little bit out there sometimes, which we now call Moo World. And Moo World is not for everyone. So this characteristic really just keeps us grounded and reminds us that we are for everyone. And we did exactly the same thing. We looked at how human related to, in this case, again, visual design. We got answers like, it's about being honest, it's about being relatable, maybe with humor and personality. And humans, we aren't perfect. We have imperfections and flaws. So from great design for everyone, we have what we call our 2 hero brand characteristics. Now, we have more than these 2, but just for now, I'm going to focus on these 2. So you have these. Now, how do you use them to guide your work? This is an example of an email that actually we sent out last year to customers who had purchased business cards, and we wanted to just simply show them some of our other great products. When we sent this email, we were thinking, well, it does a job, it's okay, we're quite happy with it. However, when we re-looked at this through the lens of being helpful and human, we actually realized it didn't quite live up to that. And this is how we reimagined it. So in the example on the right, we're being helpful in that we're helping you imagine what multiple products can do just for one company. We're using one business. And in this example, this is a juice bar. We're using props that actually relate to that business. And the background is much more neutral. The products you can see much more clearly. We're being human in that those props that we're using are something that everyone can relate to. We can all relate to the size of a grapefruit. So this helps us determine scale. And humans, we're not perfect. Things happen. We could have had that juice there, perfectly photoshopped and airbrushed and looking great, but things happen. We make mistakes. We have flaws. And lastly, we're being, and it's going to be hard to see here, but we're being really conversational in our tone of voice. So hopefully this is an example of how just using these tools really help guide our creative. Next, tone of voice. And I cannot tell you, this is so super important. Your tone of voice is a dialogue you are having with your customer. You need to have clear parameters around it, and everyone and anyone who writes for your brand in any part of the journey needs to understand those parameters. For instance, say you met me here in a tea break, and we were having a chat, talking like this. And then say maybe you met me a couple weeks later somewhere else, and suddenly I started talking very differently. I was very formal. You'd be confused, right? You'd be like, who's the real Lisa? And this is exactly what your customers encounter when you suddenly just change the way you're speaking to them mid-conversation. So in this example on the left, kind of like, feels like you've been denied entrance to a club. It's like, this isn't for you. On the right, we're being helpful because we're explaining why this isn't for you and also that there's lots of other great stuff coming your way. And we're being human because we're being conversational about this. We're being friendly. This is another example, and this is actually on our business card category page. And at first glance, there's nothing outwardly wrong about this. It's got all the information you would need to make a purchase. But if any of you have ever done any online grocery shopping, and I am so guilty of this, you will know it is so hard to determine the scale or size of something just from a photo. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a photo of something on my thing and ordered it only to have the big jumbo pack arrive. So this is what we did. We're being helpful in that we've provided some context, something to give people that they can relate to in sense of scale. And we're being human in that that object is a paperclip, and we can all relatively relate to the size of that. Another example, and in this example, we're actually looking at thickness, and we're comparing a set of 50 of our original business cards to 50 Lux cards, and you can see the Lux cards are thicker. We're being human here, and that we're demonstrating that. But we're also being helpful in that we've added another thing there, Oreos, and everyone can roughly relate to an Oreo. But we're also using this as an analogy for how this product is made. And this product is actually made by sandwiching, literally, a colored sheet of paper in between 2 layers of white paper. Unless we were being human in that, there's a bite out of that cookie, there's crumbs. It looks like somebody's been there. Brand characteristics, again, they need to be owned by everyone in your organization. And our brand characteristics really do live within our organization. We use them in new starter workshops. We have brand toolkits, which we hand out to all of our employees so we can use these as tools day to day. Because remember, we are all the brand team. Everyone in your organization is working towards the shared goal of a great customer experience with your brand. Personality characteristics, they work for any brand. I did this talk a couple months ago, and afterwards, a woman came up to me and she said, well, what about like healthcare? Like, how could this possibly work for healthcare? I said, well, really simple. Think about your doctor and what kind of personality characteristics you would expect from your GP. You might want them to be trustworthy, knowledgeable, relatable, someone who speaks your own language and not kind of medical speak, someone you can confide in. These really do work for any brand. And lastly, doing this work on brand personality equals money. Everyone wants to hear. This is a study published by the Design Management Institute, and they've been tracking these, what they call design-led companies. And by that, they mean companies that place a focus on consistency in how their brand is communicated across all touch points, exactly what we've been talking about here today. And they've been tracking these companies for 10 years. And what they found is that these companies have constantly outperformed on the S&P by 211%. And that is a lot of money. So keep that in mind when somebody tells you that doing this work is not important. And when you look at the top 15 of these businesses, there will probably be some what I call super brands in there, probably even brands that you admire. So just as a final thought, I'd like you to consider this. Regardless of whether you intentionally give your product a personality, people will perceive one. The human brain is just hardwired to see personality in things. So try this. Ask your customers, if my brand were a person, how would you describe us? And if you haven't considered your brand's personality, you may actually be surprised at the answer. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. That was terrific. Thank you very much indeed. Lisa Campana, everybody. One more time for Lisa. Thank you very much. I don't think I did a good enough job earlier of saying a big thank you to every single person who delivered one of the workshops after lunch. I hope you found them useful, everybody. I know you went far and wide across the city. Almost everyone who delivered those workshops is still with us, so can we just give them a final thank you for their energy and their time? Massively appreciated. Thank you. I don't know if you've got colleagues who couldn't be here today, but we're streaming live at the moment on Facebook, so that's facebook.com/wearelikminds, just FYI. Also, thanks to those of you who have got into Howdy, which is in the App Store, Howdy. And I can see lots of connections pinging away on that, so it's quite a good way to find and connect with people who are already here. So I get to take a very short break as I hand over to a far more capable pair of hands than my own, someone I'm very grateful to for giving us his time today. Darren is too modest to tell you that he's been listed by Debrett's as one of the 500 most influential people in Britain. City AM rank him as one of the most influential people in fintech in the UK, probably much beyond the UK, I would think. He's the CEO of a company called Crowdcube, known to everybody here, which, as you know, is based right down here in Exeter. He's going to guide us through our pitch fest. Please give a warm welcome back to the stage, Darren Westlake.
Thanks very much, Ollie. I will try to be a tenth as good a presenter as you are. We've got a real-life Dragon's Den scenario now for the next half an hour. We've got 6 fantastic companies who are going to come up here and pitch to you guys. They've got 2.5 minutes each to pitch to you, tell you all about their businesses, how much they're looking for. And then if any of you have got any cash in your pockets or are interested, get in contact with these companies or speak to them afterwards. After the 2.5 minutes is up, you've got 2.5 minutes to fire any questions to them. So without further ado, the first person coming up on the stage today is Simon. Simon Scott Nelson. His company is Wellity, and it's a children's sports brand which is run by kids for kids. So Simon, you are up.
Hello, this is nerve-wracking.
You'll be fine.
Thank you, Darren. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. With child health so much in the headlines at the moment, let's see if I can get this to work. Don't know if it works. Crack on anyway? No? Thank you very much, everyone.
There you are, Simon. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay, then, in that case, we are now going to call up Jackie Brent from If Everyone Cares. Jackie has an interactive community map company, and I believe you funded on Crowdfunder, our sister company as well.
Just a little one,
Yes.
Tiny one, yes.
Congratulations, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Jackie Bent, and I'm going to admit right now, I struggle with panic attacks. So actually, everything that's in my pitch and in my deck has gone right out of my mind. But I'm going to tell you from my heart and with passion what we do and why we do it. Did you know that in the UK, we have a hidden emergency service? There's no 999 to call, and there's no single hub that brings this information together so that it can be found easily. There are actually over 200,000 charities and community projects out there that help some of the most vulnerable people in this country. And yet there's nowhere that brings this information together. It's actually easier to go to Google Maps and find a hotel or restaurant and make an informed decision than it is to find help and support. Now, with poverty said to be costing the UK £78 billion a year, and disconnected communities said to be costing another £32 billion, it's a rather expensive problem, but it's also something that is making a huge difference in people's lives. Now, in 2003, a block of cheese changed my life. I had been in an emotionally abusive marriage for a number of years, to the point where my ex-husband now had even put in a phone box so I couldn't make phone calls to people, and I'd been cut off from the world. And it was a rather scary place. That block of cheese gave me the courage to leave. And it was one of the best things, but I didn't know where to go and find help and support. Then in 2010, I was actually a trainer helping people who'd been out of work long term due to illness and disability to get their confidence and courage back up so they could go back into work. And I was shocked by the number of people who couldn't find help and support that was available locally. So I wanted to do something about it. And I wanted to do something even more when I was told I couldn't work with a number of my clients because they were no-hopers. Now, nobody in this world is a no-hoper. They really aren't. And so we set up, a group of volunteers and we set up working on an interactive community map. And it's called a DODO, which stands for One Day, One Deed, One World. We've got our prototype up and running. We've got our first 400 organisations on board. And we've now just written an amazing piece of code which means that people can get, we can have collaborative maps with organisations. So for example, local authorities or niche markets like homelessness or needing food banks. And so we can work on that together. So we've done all of that with just £11,000 worth of funding, and now we need your help. Whether you want to come and be an advisor with us, whether you've got a little bit of funding for us to help to move to the next stage. Now, we've got our first collaborative MAC partner, and we're just putting the final touches on that. So we've actually come a long way in a very short period of time, and we would really appreciate it if you could help us maybe do a couple of things. So James this morning from Lego said, we all need to learn to tell a better story, to change the narrative, to change the culture. And Robert from Stevens and Scone said, it's not about the what, it's the why. And he talked about love where you live. And we've had some amazing people here this morning, and this is about heart and passion in every individual person. Having an interactive community map will help people to find help. It will help them to find where they can give help and volunteer, and it will help organisations to connect, share, and collaborate and reduce duplication. So please do get in contact. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's just stay there for a second, Jackie. Anybody got any questions for Jackie? Does this one work? No. Does this one work? Yes, it does work. There you go.
I just wanted to know a bit more about what the next level was for you. Yeah, you said you want some funding to go to the next step. What does that look like?
The next steps is to get more charities and organisations on board the map. And so that's why we built the code for the collaborative maps, because it means we can work with other organisations. So other organisations, if they have a collaborative map and we've got one, as they get data on their map, it fills our map. And as we get data on our map, if it's in a certain region, it will help to fill their map. When one person updates information on one of the maps, it will update on the other one, meaning that there's a flow of up-to-date information. One of the other things that we're doing with our map is we're putting a traffic light system on it, because so often data goes out of date really quickly. So people will be able to see how old the information is on the map by a simple traffic light system across the top.
Brilliant. That's great. Thanks very much, Jackie. Oh, one more?
I'm based in Dawlish, so literally not that far away from here. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Round of applause. Okay, up next is someone I know reasonably. Simon is going to come back next. Simon, are you around? Hopefully we've got your slides this time. There we go. Simon, over to you. There you go.
Can you hear me? You'll be sick of me by the end of this. Right, with child health so much in the headlines, everywhere we look, I'd like to tell you a story of 3 inspiring local Exeter school children. They're aged 10, 11 and 12. They have founded the UK's youngest sports brand and the only health company of its kind. They're also my children. After competing on how many steps they could do each day, they wondered how they could get more kids off the sofa and doing more exercise. And that's how Wellity came about. Wellity is wellness and vitality. Their motto, when it comes to child health, is think big, start small, change now. So what is Wellity in a business term? Well, think Gymshark or Under Armour with their £100 million a year turnovers. But this is for 7 to 16-year-olds only. It has a stronger USP. It is run by children, for children. It incorporates every angle of social media in a bid to make healthy go viral. And it empowers children to take control of their own health and fitness. Child health must be the next emerging market. And when we talk about a new business being in front of the curve, in order to appeal to investors, this is it. Even before launching, they have become regulars in local media. As you can see up there, some will be familiar to you. They're starting local fun runs. They're showcased in every Flybe in-flight magazine throughout November. They presented to hundreds of adults in 3 business competitions. And next month, we're extremely proud to say that they have been shortlisted for 2 awards at the NatWest Great British Entrepreneur Awards. It's still very early days, and it's just the beginning. Our only first paid advertising was 80 quid last weekend. So, what is Wellity? Oh, that's the next slide. Well, it's activewear. It's part of the £7 billion market in the UK alone. It's healthy kids' food and nutrition, social media, endorsements and sales, and apps to which connect kids to local sports and facilities and clubs, all which communicate healthy living to kids in a language that they understand. The Wellity kids aim to get the sports brand on the high street within 12 months and be the brand associated to kids' health. It's the children's own sports brand after all, and the badge of a healthy lifestyle. The kids are already behind the scenes young enterprise mentors. They've got a clothes brand with 35 lines. They've interviewed personalities such as Premiership footballers, sports personalities, and even Gabby Logan. The activewear market is worth $7 billion in the UK alone, and Wellity is positioned to be the only brand aimed solely at children. With a desired partnership with Diabetes UK on the cards, or working towards, Wellity will hopefully benefit millions. Wellity should work. After all, in today's society, kids listen to kids more than kids listen to adults. Just look at fidget spinners and Sainsbury's sticker books to tell you that kids will make their own trends. Wellity has a huge spirit. It's got massive potential, and as we said earlier, kids see things so differently. We just need to find a like mind to help us start up and scale up. They say never to work with kids, but it's only when we did that we realized that anything is possible. Thank you.
Well done. Great, thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? Over there, there's plenty of questions over here at the back.
Hi, I'm just interested about the activewear. Whereabouts are you planning on manufacturing it?
We're just sourcing it on set. The business is only me and the 3 children.
Sam, there's another microphone on there if you want to grab that.
We're just sourcing it. Oh, hello. We're just sourcing it locally at the moment, just to get the brand off the ground. It's only, well, me and the 3 kids at the moment, so we have to start small. We'll be looking to obviously manufacture our own lines and make them ourselves as we move on and work with other partners, or as and when we get into the shops or wholesale. Well, of course, we'll have to do things ourselves more. But they're wholesale clothes at the moment.
There's another question over here.
So your children are in school, presumably. Who's going to do the work?
Who does the work?
Yeah.
Well, they sort of go outside the bracket of normal work. So they've done all the presentations. They came up with a logo. They do a lot of the social media. I'm the only other person that's associated with the company. So I sold my business in January to follow this passion, to do this, which I'm finding far more rewarding. So I do all that, but they do all the business stuff and the front-end stuff and the social media, and they've just launched a iceberg lettuce challenge to try and get healthy food going viral and raise money for Diabetes UK. So we're all pretty much pitching in at the moment.
Great, that's it. Thank you very much. Another round of applause.
Thank you, everyone.
Well done. Okay, up next is another crowdfunder success story, which is Ed Bird from Bird Sunglasses. Ed, there he is. Okay. Ed, please take the stage.
Thank you. Thanks, Darren. Hello, everyone. My name is Ed, and I'm the founder of Bird Sunglasses. We are an Exeter-based startup. So, my brothers and I launched Bird Sunglasses. Sorry, Cameron can turn me up. My brothers and I launched Bird Sunglasses in March this year after 2 years of research, development, and prototyping. But we're not just making any ordinary sunglasses. We make beautiful, handcrafted frames using sustainable materials and the byproducts from other industries. And we are bird by name and bird by nature. In our Featherlight range, our bamboo frames are so lightweight that they even float. We also name all of our products after birds. So we have the wren, the finch, the blackcap, and so on. We pride ourselves on our attention to detail in every aspect of our products, from our tactile frames to our handmade eco cork and leather cases. And even the boxes that we ship our products in are 100% recycled, right down to our custom packaging tape. But more than this, we want to be a purposeful business that makes a difference in the world, which is why we've created our Share Your Sun partnership with SolarAid. So for every pair of sunglasses that we sell, we distribute one of these solar lights into SolarAid's programs across Africa, helping to rid communities of the dangerous and toxic kerosene lamps which are still used by millions and millions of families to light their homes after dark. Now, we are 6 months old, we're a teeny tiny baby startup, but we've already been featured in Forbes, in the Mirror, and this summer we were named in the Independent's top 15 women's sunglasses alongside some really big global brands. We're currently selling online and through some small retailers, and we know that from our initial sales that we have a healthy gross profit margin. This puts us in a strong position as we look to scale our business and move into larger retail. Bird Sunglasses is self-funded, so I've personally invested around £40,000 of my own money into this business. We're not tied to any banks or lenders or investors, but we are looking to grow. We're looking to kind of move from that startup to scale-up phase, moving into larger retail and prescription lenses. So we are looking for financial investment, we are looking for business expertise, and we are looking for connections into retail. So if there's anyone here that thinks that they can help or know people that might, I would love to hear from you. Or if you would like to hear more about Bird Sunglasses, then I would love to have a coffee with you. So our goal is to create a global family, a flock of people that not only look good, but change the world while doing it. Thank you.
Awesome, well done. There's a microphone there, going to grab that one. Okay, any questions for Ed? Okay, over there.
Ed, as you look to scale up, how are you going to maintain that quality that you've got for the business at the moment?
Well, we're working really closely with our manufacturing teams that are all around the world. We've got some in China, some in Italy, some in the UK. So we know through our relationships and we've had 2 years kind of working with them, going through the prototyping phase, and so we're aware of their teams and capacity, but we're also helping to develop more in-house skills as well as we grow. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Hi. What's the makeup of your team at the moment, and what's your aspiration for the next couple of years? What type of skills are you most looking for in potential board advisors or additional team members coming in?
Yes, so currently we are a team of 4 brothers, and we're all involved in other businesses and other ventures, but you know, this is something that we're all starting to pull together more and more on. So I think over the next few years, we would like to, develop a full-time team on this project. We are looking to build an advisory board around us, just to help us navigate this this startup. In terms of things that we need, it's to do with mostly around finance and how we fundraise and what we do with that money, and making sure that we don't just kind of fundraise. It's very easy to spend money. What we don't want to do is just get money and spend it and go big, run before we can walk. So we would much rather surround ourselves with the expertise beforehand before we make those bigger steps. So yeah, we are looking for people to be a part of that board.
All right, one quick question.
It's an offer, not a question. Let's get a coffee.
Yes, yeah, by all means.
Bingo. Thanks very much.
That's great, thank you.
Applause. Okay, so health tech has been a big success type of business on Crowdcube recently, and our next business is from the health tech sector. So welcome to the stage, Alistair Buick from Technical Health.
Thank you. So I'm here to pitch health tech as a product, and my name is Dr. Alistair Buick. I better just click through the slides. I'm a medical entrepreneur and also a doctor working in medicine, also suffering from man flu, so 50% of the population here will definitely have sympathy with me right now. So disruptive technology, when you guys probably think of disruptive technology, you think about these companies that come into your head, and I don't know about you, but not many medical technology companies kind of come into my head. So we think about how technology has disrupted lots of industries, but how and why has this not happened in healthcare? Well, the issue is that if we look at our health system as one thing, this is the kind of high rise. The NHS is a sort of skyscraper. Right at the top, you've got NHS England, and then you've got trickling down all the way down to clinicians and patients and people with kind of wards and hospitals or GP surgeries in between. And in terms of the NHS, as an example, they've disrupted probably sort of distributing information, telling people about services, probably done it quite well at the top, but they haven't done it very well further down. So how well do people interact with their GP services? How do they interact if you have, for example, if you get cancer, how do you interact with the oncology unit, that sort of thing? Why can't we do this using technology now when people want this? And the answer, I think, is that we need to build a kind of more modular system that we can distribute throughout the health service that we have. So HealthDeck is positioned to be the kind of WordPress for healthcare, which might not excite some people, but WordPress it actually powers about 25% of the sort of websites on the internet. So by building a modular system with features specifically for healthcare, for the healthcare industry, we can enable the healthcare providers to create their own solutions for the communities that they serve. So that might be, as an example, an oncology ward creating a service for the patients that they treat. Our proof of concept, we've actually created something which is just a basic content management system specifically for healthcare, and we've enabled hospitals to essentially put their content onto this server and then push that out to mobile apps and web apps. And three examples that we've created in the last year. The top one is handy maternity. So if you have a baby in Taunton, you'd get this app, which basically gives you all the information you need to know about that service. There's a patient-facing app. The second one down is a guideline app for clinicians in the RD&E and in Taunton locally. And then the third one down is essentially a prescribing app for anyone prescribing in primary healthcare in Devon. All very sort of simple technology, but quite effective, and we found that this improves patient outcomes, saves money, and improves service experience, which is all the buzz, all what the health service wants these days. What we found when we've talked to people in the health service who are kind of procuring this technology is they want more features, and instead of creating one solution for one hospital, actually we're going to build a modular system that enables people to basically buy off the menu what they want and then push out their piece of technology to their users. The next steps, therefore, is scaling our existing content management system, but then building in those feature sets that people want. And our current bottlenecks are the pace of healthcare is slow, so procuring does take some time, and we need to increase our development capacity, and we could do with a bit more working capital to help speed things up. That's HealthDeck. Any questions? Be happy to answer them. Thanks.
Any questions from the audience? Glenn? What's your current revenue?
So we probably, with the, sort of in the next 6 months, we're looking at bringing in about £40,000. We essentially scale, we're looking at kind of new apps that we're pushing out on the content management system. For example, there's one in Cornwall in the oncology service down there, but also scaling what we've already built. So for example, the Guidelight app, which has already been launched, we're looking at distributing that across the whole region, and therefore essentially the revenue, at the minute we generate about £5,000 to £10,000 recurring revenue per app that we launch. But obviously if it's across the whole region, then that would suddenly go up because it's more than just one hospital. So we're looking to scale that, but at the minute in the pipeline is about £40,000 just on what we've got. But it may be that in the next month or two, we even start seeing that increase. So we do have working capital through what we're doing already.
So that 5,000 to 10,000 that you charge effectively that local authority,
do you know how much you save them? Because then that makes it easy to roll it out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah. So that's a big question, really. If we go back to the maternity app, we saved them £15,000 in printing costs alone. There's similar apps that have been launched, but they're just kind of one-off apps that have saved trusts about £250,000 in bed days just by giving people better access to information that they need. And we're working with the University of Exeter and some people locally about how we actually evidence that, because that's obviously, once we do that, we can kind of press the right buttons.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Round of applause. Okay, thanks, Alistair. So next up, we have Kerry James from My Care Directory. And Kerry runs a one-stop shop for all care needs. Round of applause for Kerry, please.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Kerry and I am passionate about helping people. So I'm going to be talking to you about an issue that will affect everyone in this room at some time in your life, whether it's for yourself, for someone you know, or if it's for someone that you love. Imagine if your independence, dignity, choices and control and the ability to live in the comfort of your own home were one day threatened by an illness, an accident or old age. A situation where you relied on others to help you to wash, dress and eat. How would you want to be cared for? Well, over 2 million people in the UK are living this reality, but are they getting the kind of care that they want? Mrs. P was a 90-year-old lady. She was blind, she lived alone, she had no living family. She had survived a concentration camp and worked in the travelling circus as a trapeze artist, so I think it's fair to say she was a tough cookie. But following a fall at home, she became frail and weak and spent most of her time in bed. She had lost her independence and social services had told her that she had to go into a care home. For the first time in 5 years that I'd known her, I found her crying. She didn't want to go into a care home, she wanted to stay at home, but traditional care services could not fulfill those needs. What she wanted and what she really needed was a small team of carers to deliver a bespoke package of care and someone to oversee her needs and her affairs, and so I got to work. The end result was that Mrs. P fulfilled her dying wish and she died at home. Without realising it, I had the foundations of My Care Directory. It very quickly became clear that not only was the model that I had created and used helped the users, but it also attracted a huge surge of interest from carers who wanted to work in this way. They wanted a job that would enable them to deliver quality of care, flexibility of working hours and increased pay. And although I love being Flavour of the Month, I was a bit confused as to why I had this sudden huge interest. And when I did some research, I found out that the number one problem that service providers have is staff recruitment and retention. Well, when you add this problem to the fact that we have an ever-increasing and ageing population, obviously it's no surprise then that the care industry is in crisis. I mean, we've all seen the headlines. So, demands of the care industry require innovative solutions and a culture change. And the services that I provide are proof that we can make a contribution to that. Oh, there it is. Sorry. I do this by putting the needs of both the users and the carers at the centre. As Gandhi once said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. So thank you for listening. And if you believe that I do, that we can make a difference, please offer me your support to develop my business so that I can make My Care Directory services accessible to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Anybody got any questions for Jackie?
So you said about creating a network of carers, is that correct?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
You said about creating a network of carers.
Yes.
How do you ensure their expertise are capable of taking care of the people you want to take care of?
Yeah, good question. So really, at the moment, people who are looking for care and support in their own home, they have two options. They can go and find a domiciliary care agency who employs staff, and then that agency will send in staff according to what availability of staff they've got. There's no continuity. There's a lot of problems. The alternative that they have, that's the service users, is that they can go and source their own what we call PAs, personal care assistants, and that involves an awful lot of work and high risk. So they've got to certify them, reference, advertise, do all those kinds of things. And these are vulnerable people who have already got care and health needs. So essentially what I do is I take that admin work away from them. I will source, and I have a database that I've already created, and I do what I call certify them. So everything that an employer would do. So they've got an application form, I interview them, we get their DBS checked. If they say they've got qualifications, I make sure I've seen their certificates. Everything that an employer would do, make sure they're eligible to work in the UK, and present that to the service users. I present several at a time to the service users to see who they would think they would like to meet, and it goes on from there.
Great, thank you. Anybody else got another question? Time for one more? No? Okay, great. Well, thanks very much. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Last year I was on a judging panel at VentureFest here in Exeter, and this next company won the pitching competition there. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Joel Stobbart from Custodian.
I hope I can live up to that. These things terrify me, so apologies in advance. I'm Joel Stobbart. I'm here from Custodian Solutions. We build investigation management software, evidence management software, and all the tools you need to deliver global security. None of you know what any of that means. We are lucky enough to have won the Global Award for Anti-Counterfeiting for Technology. That might help a little bit. Counterfeiting and global security is an incredibly serious problem. It's 4% of all world trade. So 4% of everything that's traded around the world is counterfeit goods. Millions of people die every year of counterfeit goods. The entire increase in house fires happens because counterfeit iPhone chargers, mainly, Samsung also. Brands are seriously affected by counterfeit goods all around the world in every way. Your cars, your airbags, your everything. People are affected too. So Betty died of cancer. She was a cancer sufferer. Unfortunately, before she died, she was given fake cancer medicine, effectively water with a bit of mold in it. It's kind of unpleasant and kind of unfair, but that's happened to hundreds of kids in Mexico. It's happening all around the world. We build a software platform that allows you to capture all of that investigation information when you're understanding that, all of the evidence, bring it all together with the intelligence, and then take serious, effective action in a consistent way so that you can make serious solutions that happen to these problems, so you can take effective enforcement action. I'm the geek on the left, and my colleagues are former National Criminal Intelligence Service, former Army Intelligence Corps, and they don't attend things like this. They have an incredible experience and incredible skills in understanding all of the how you do it parts of the problem, and I bring how do you solve it part of the problem, solution, hopefully. We've got some incredible customers. We're working with 3 of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies. We're working with leading FMCG companies. We're trying to grow our revenue, and we're looking for a fundraise this year, and we're looking for about £500,000. We've got a plan for how we're going to grow, and we've got a strategy. We just need to carry it out, and we'd appreciate any support and help you could give us. And that's me. I'm always short and sweet.
Okay, I'm sure there's some questions for Joel. Over there. Okay.
Joel, apart from the money, the fundraise you mentioned, what are the 3 top things that you need other than money?
Okay, so our key weaknesses are probably the understanding of money, not just money itself. So finance, none of our team are finance people, so hopefully you can bring that experience. We've also got a slight lack of commercial experience. We all come from doing stuff backgrounds rather than talking about doing stuff backgrounds. And we also don't have much experience of marketing because, again, we don't. Some of our guys don't even want to talk about what they do. So yeah, those are our 3 key areas that we'd really need to improve.
Okay, any other questions? Can you shout?
How have you built your customer base so far, and what competition do you have?
Okay, there are a couple of companies in the world who are competing with us, but they're not really competing with us because most people just use Excel or a notepad or a piece of paper. We're hoping that the information security changes will change that and people start to realise that they should be doing things properly. Sorry, the other part? Oh, my colleagues are former investigators, and through their contacts, they've just put us in touch with some of the best firms you can possibly imagine. We're incredibly lucky in who we've got as customers. Like I said, top 20 global pharmaceutical companies, top 10 FMCG companies in the world. You don't get those kind of customers by, anything but luck, really, and a lot of contacts and networking.
All right, one more question, I think.
Just asking whether you've approached those multi-million pharmaceutical companies to see whether they can help you with 500,000.
No, never. I wouldn't know who to ask, and we tend to talk to really small teams who I consider to be underfunded. So the parts of the business who are doing the defensive effort, I think need to be 10 or 100 times bigger than they are. So it's quite hard for them to get budgets to pay for us, let alone to get a budget to, give us £500,000. I'd love it though. So if you know someone who can give me that, then please.
I think you should ask Joel. Yeah, definitely. Great.
Yeah, well, you'd hope, but like I said, I think that they're further down the food chain than the guys with those kind of checkbooks.
Something to think about there, Joel.
Yeah.
Well done. Thanks a lot. Okay, well that wraps up the pitching for today. All of these guys need your help in lots of different ways: money, support, advice. So if you think you can help them out in any of those things, then find them after this session today and let them know what you can do for them. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you very much indeed. I want to say a personal thank you to everyone. By the way, Jackie, did you have a thought about something you didn't say, by the way? You were telling me something.
Yeah. One thing I didn't say is I may have come across as a bit of a flake because I had a bit of a panic attack, but actually we've achieved some really good things. Last year we were named on the UK's Digital Leaders 100 list for the potential social impact of what we're doing. When we first had the idea of creating a map, we put it into Richard Branson's challenge to screw business as usual, and the idea was voted third by the public from people from around the world. So we've actually achieved some quite good things, and we really could do with your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. And just in the interest of helping everyone join the dots as we go into a break, I'm going to say a big thank you again to Jackie, to Simon, to Ed, to Alistair, to Kerry, and to Joel. If they could all just stand up so we can look around. I know they're scattered around. It'll help us pick you off as we go for coffee in a second. There's Kerry there. Yes. That was terrific. Did you enjoy that? Yeah, I thought they were terrific presentations, actually. Thank you very much, everyone. Shortly, we're going to have our final two keynotes. I feel a bit sad actually saying that, but that's the way the day goes. Glenn Woodcock is waiting in the wings to talk to us about some amazing examples from his work at Exeter City Futures, and Mike Goldsmith sitting incredibly patiently. I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, we asked some of the speakers to gather at 7:45 this morning, and Mike was there. I mean, that is effort, isn't it? 10 to. Oh, was it 10 to? Right. Let's have a quick tea break, maybe 10 minutes, but let's seize the opportunity to have another couple of quick conversations, and we'll be right back with our final two sessions. know is an edtech company, particularly looking at maths outcomes around GCSE. And if, like me, you popped along to a couple of the workshops earlier, they were in Exeter City Futures, which he now leads. And so I think we're going to get a bit zoomed in to some of the ideas and the work on the ground as we welcome to the stage Glenn Woodcock.
I'd ask you to consider this axiom to be self-evidently true. I'm joking. But my pitch to the City Council for the last 2 years might as well have been that. Okay? I'll tell you what it means, because actually I think it's quite... unfortunately, the pen's not very good. And I've totally changed my talk, by the way, because everything that's come before has changed the way I was thinking about things. So M here stands for mission. A, analytics, D, data. So this means the intersection between mission and analytics of data. Okay, that's what that stands for here. Union with place, P for place, leads to transformation. Okay, and that's what I've been telling people for the last 2 years, and I've basically been saying, and this is self-evidently true, right? And you know, you're talking to local politicians, local governments, stuff like that, and they kind of look at you like you've just landed from outer space. But I just kept saying it over and over again, not like that, but I think I'm going to start doing it like that. So I think what I'm going to try and do today, and axioms are kind of like this, right? I don't know how, if you're not mathematical, this probably means nothing, but axioms are things you have to just accept and then get on with life on the basis of that. And that's what I'm trying to persuade the City of Exeter to be true. If you don't know, the mission of Exeter City Futures is to somehow make Exeter a sustainable city, energy independent and congestion free in 10 years. Actually 8 now, because I've spent 2 years pitching that. All right, I'm going to talk you through a few projects and examples of stuff that's been going on in Exeter, exclusively in Exeter. And I'm hoping that after I've talked you through all of these things, brilliant, thanks, more pens. After I've talked you through all these things, they won't make this equation self-evidently true, but if you squint at what I'm saying, this may come into perspective, and I will keep referring to it. This is set language, by the way. It's great, isn't it? Right, the first thing I'm going to talk about is, well, I mean, first of all, actually, I did do some pictures, but and also the city of Exeter is at a kind of a turning point. And it can be like this, or like, you know, that's Copenhagen, people cycling around, having a nice time, no traffic. This is Brisbane, people getting to work on boats on the river. That's one really exciting, interesting place to be. Or it could end up like this. And at the end of the day, the things that drive these sorts of things are actually outside of the reach and the control of ordinary people. Usually it's sort of in the realms of things like planning processes and stuff like that. So what I'm going to say is that this equation, I think, can be used to control which of these outcomes we get in Exeter. And indeed, I think, in any city. Right now, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through some examples. There aren't really any slides for it. I'll leave it on this picture for the moment. I'm going to talk you through some examples which will hopefully help you understand. And at the end, what it is really it's a call to action for all of you. And they're also in increasing order of scale/stupidity as well. So the first project started because I had a tour of a thing called an MIRV. It's a recycling centre, mechanical recycling centre in Exeter. And we went and had a look around it, and I learned a few things. First thing I learned actually was that recycling rates in Exeter are really bad. About 40% of recyclable materials in Exeter actually get recycled. So I learned that, and also I learned that there was a lot of data in this recycling centre, a really interesting place, because when the vans go out, the trucks go out, every time they collect something from a bin, the truck registers it. Then the truck comes back full of all this, for me anyway, lovely data, and it gets downloaded into a spreadsheet, and that's where it sits. And I was chatting to the lady who runs the centre, a very inspiring person, really cared about rubbish, and that's the theme as we go along, because caring about things, and you saw that earlier as well, really matters. She hadn't passed the GCSE in maths, and she just didn't know what to do with this stuff. Okay, pause that thread. There's another thread. Exeter is one of only 2 places in the UK that has a maths specialist school. This is a place where if you're really geeky and you don't fit in, you can go to this maths specialist school in Exeter. So what we did was we took the data from the recycling centre, took it to the maths specialist school and said, all right, kids, take a look at this, see what you can tell us. And, you know, they do things like kind of map it in GIS and do stuff in R and Python and get really clever with it. And, you know, they were able to find out all sorts of stuff about the, scheduling of collection times and et cetera, which gave some quick wins, and that was really exciting. But the next step for them is to create tools that can be taken to primary schools in Exeter. In those primary schools, next year, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be saying to those primary school kids, I want you to run marketing campaigns to your parents. And you're going to compete ward by ward with other primary schools and street by street, and the kids at the maths school are going to monitor it and help you work out who the winner is. But also, and this is the really cool thing, recycling is money. The more recycling you do, the more money you make. I hope Vicky doesn't mind me kind of giving some of the secret stats of the City Council, but 40% recycling generates about £1 million of revenue. So every 10% extra is maybe £200,000. That's great, right? Because then you can get the primary school kids to do a revenue share deal with the City Council. That would be good, wouldn't it? Okay, so that's the recycling project, and that's an example of something we are calling building capability. And it's an interface there between a mission, which is to improve recycling rates, and kids want to save the world, right? They don't want the world to drown in rubbish. Analytics and data, and anchored in a place which people care about. The transformation bit we'll come on to later. I've got another example, another rubbish example. We've got a social accelerator in the city centre that's just run its first cohort through, and there's a company that came out of it, a really great company called Binnit. Binnit is run by someone who really does care about waste, a lady called Philippa. And what's great about Philippa is not only does she care about waste, but she also has a first-class degree in mathematics from Warwick University. So that appeals to me. So they got sponsored through the social accelerator. They were out searching through all the bins for Exeter's sole traders, trying to find out what are the issues with their waste collection, talking to the sole traders about, what are the things that the problems that rubbish creates for you. And the reason we were doing this was because currently commercial waste collection in Exeter causes really quite bad traffic problems, because you've got little tiny, almost Roman streets in some cases, and you've got these huge, great, £1 million, 25-ton trash lorries, and they're driving around, and they collect the stuff when they feel like it. So Exeter suffers with some quite bad rubbish problems because the traders don't have any space to keep the rubbish inside, so they put it out on the streets, and sometimes you'll see stuff outside Pret a Manger with 40 bags piled up because the guys haven't come to collect the trash. And each one of these guys has no purchasing power. So what Binnit have done is they've created a purchasing platform to create at-scale purchasing power to renegotiate contracts with the commercial waste producers. So again, it's a kind of, but what they needed to do was they needed to really understand the pain points of the waste producers, be very analytical and collect data about it, so they could position the contracts correctly. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Sparks now. Sorry, I've got to go through these things very quickly. So there'll be lots of stuff missing, I'm sure. But talk about Sparks. This is a much bigger, M for Sparks is much, much bigger. In the UK, 40% of children who take GCSE maths fail, get less than what was a C grade. The numbers won't mean anything to you. They don't mean anything to me either. Fail as first attempt. 40% of children. A million children a year take GCSE maths. So that's 400,000 children fail GCSE maths every year. If they all held hands, they'd stretch from London to Leeds. That's a pretty big failure. That's a pretty big social failure. So we wanted to do something about that. Sparks wanted to do something about that. And it became a set of questions that needed to be answered, but they wanted to answer it scientifically with data. So a question they were trying to answer was, if kids do homework, does that make any difference? That seems like a reasonable question to answer. And in this day and age, when we're spending close to £50 billion a year in the UK on education, you'd expect us to be able to answer that question, but we can't. So they tried to set out to answer that question. And today, there are about 1,000 kids in Exeter who regularly do homework set by the Sparks system. So 1,000 kids a day, 35-ish weeks a year, so 35,000 hours of homework done through the Sparks system every year. What percentage of that do you think is completed? Any ideas? A number? 30%? Anyone else? 90. Who's that? Oh, yeah. It's actually 100. 100% completion. Actually, if you want to answer the question about whether homework has any effect, you have to have 100% completion, because otherwise you're open to selection bias. I won't go into that at the moment, but you have to get 100% in order to answer that question properly. How do you do that? That's interesting, isn't it? Because that's tough, right? I'll tell you very quickly how you do it. What you have to do is you have to create 50,000 unique content items that cover the whole of the maths syllabus. You have to create 2,000 one-minute videos. And then you have to create a matrix. A matrix is just a big grid. In the matrix, down this side, you have to have the students. And along the top here, you have to have an entry for every 50,000 pieces of content. And in each matrix element, you have to have a probability of success and an expected time to complete. With these two pieces of information for every single student, every single content item, you can create, algorithmically, a piece of homework which you can guarantee that student can do and can do in 1 hour. Why is that important? Well, that's important because then you can have a zero tolerance. Then you can say, you must do your homework or you're in detention, which is what we do. I mean, it sounds a bit draconian, but that's what you have to do with kids. You have to have consequences. And actually, they enjoy it because they can do it. And we know they enjoy it because we don't put any of them in detention and they all finish it. Now, that's mission, analytics, data, in a school, in a place. You can see perhaps there where transformation comes in as well, because you've got quite large amounts of money involved. You know, it's not easy to get hold of, it's not easy to contractually engage with, because schools are kind of complicated places. But actually, even in Exeter, we spend, you know, one school costs £10 million. Got, 5 secondary schools in Exeter, that's £50 million a year spent on educating kids. So, you can see how there are ways of tapping into cash, which kind of leads to transformation. Take it up another level, right? Earlier on I said energy independent, congestion-free. What does that mean, congestion-free? How can you imagine a congestion-free city? Well, at the moment, it's quite difficult for Exeter because its whole development is predicated on cars, as are most rural cities in the UK. You have a lot of housing estates outside of the city. So you have to start to ask yourself the question, what sort of services needs to exist in a city if we are not all just going to be driving our cars in and out of the city every day? If you want to do that, you want to ask those questions, you really need to know something about where people are going to and from. And it might surprise you to know that there are no analytically driven transportation models in the UK. So when someone decides where to put a housing estate, or decides where to put a car park, or decides where to put a Lidl, they do some transportation model, and the input data into that transportation model is the census. That's amazing, isn't it? In the day where we walk around with these devices telling people where we are all the time, you know, they do try to do a little bit of stuff with some data from Vodafone, but Vodafone are so scared of handing that data over because they're worried about data protection, and also they're also concerned that if somebody else comes up with a good way of using it, they'll miss out, so they don't use it at all, which is extraordinary. Yeah, so there isn't a model. So there's a company in Exeter, a company called City Science, and what it is doing is ground up, redeveloping all the transportation models for Exeter using real input data, and that data can come from anywhere. I mean, one of the best sources of input data is things like key fobs. That's free, and it's owned by the people of Exeter. The businesses of Exeter, in their building information management systems, and the interaction between key fobs and your HR database tells you a lot about how people move around the city, and that's all ours. You don't have to get it off Google, you don't have to get it off Vodafone. You do have to persuade the lawyers to hand it over in a useful format, but actually we've got some great law firms here and they're all cool with it. So I've heard. So what I've done there is I've rushed through a bunch. Now that's a really big mission. It's analytics, it's data, it's in a place. How does that lead to transformation? Well, this is where it starts to get, I think, quite interesting, because so far we've talked about data and startups and analytics and businesses, things that you guys know about, right? Things that you guys do. How can that lead to transformation? Because at the end of the day, where houses get built is it's developers and it's planning processes and it's big money and it's investments and who knows how that stuff happens. Well, actually, we need to find out, and we need to be very, very interested in it, because it's shaping the future of our city and the future of every evolving city in the UK. Most of the reasons why housing estates are built circling cities are because you go through a thing called a viability assessment on a piece of land development, and the viability assessment basically has built into it a level of profitability for a developer, and developers know really well how to maximize this, and they will play cards like transport and say, well, you can't build it there because because you can't connect it easily to the transportation system. The transportation system can't handle it. And anyway, we don't want to build densely. We want to build our rabbit hutches that we always build. But if you can control all of the information about how services will connect people to places, you can force the hand of developers, I believe. And that's the sort of stuff that can genuinely lead to transformation. But before you can do it, because these things inevitably end up in court and barristers get involved, so you need entrepreneurial barristers. Barristers get involved. It means you need good, strong evidence of different ways of doing things, because when it comes to court, you need evidence. The evidence is the data, it's the mission, it's the startups, it's the place. So the things that you do early on in a transformation program like this are paving the way for really big conversations about how we can will into existence our own future. So it sort of comes full circle, because once you say things like, let's imagine that the next 3 or 4 2,000 housing estates are not going to be stuck on the outskirts of a city on the motorway junction. They are instead going to be dense, vibrant, connected to the city. Then we're going to need a whole bunch of different services. And that's why you see things like, Escargot riding around on their electric cargo bike. That's the beginning of a new kind of logistics model for a city. So when you order your Amazon package, it doesn't come in a DPD van that's kind of driving around all over the city, dropping things off for people. 70% of the costs of delivering a package for DPD are in the last mile. because they drive along with all their stuff in the van. When they hit the city, they go up that road, up that road, up that road, and they cover way more miles and time driving around within our city, giving us our packages than they do coming from the logistics centre. So even they don't want to do that, but we especially don't want them doing that. But unless we come up with some alternatives, they're going to keep doing that. So, but the important thing is that those challenges, and in fact, when you start looking into what are the challenges you have to solve in order to deliver a different place for people to live, there's a long list. But the cool thing is that people will pay you to solve those problems. So that's where I'm saying where it comes full circle. By engaging with a different vision for a place, you unearth a whole bunch of challenges. We are going to have to think differently about collecting data to solve those things, but it's going to also employ us and give us things to do and help us make a living. And it's going to it makes the possibility of Exeter becoming a healthier, greener, more livable place, but crucially also a lower carbon place for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, that's fab. Thank you very much. That's Glenn Woodcock, everybody. Thank you. It's a lovely phrase, wasn't it? Here's another rubbish example. It really was. And a brilliant presentation. Thank you, by the way, for those of you who've been tweeting throughout the day. We've had a thoroughly synoptic performance from Stuart Rock on the front row here. Stuart has interviewed probably more entrepreneurs than anyone in this country, so go and quiz him later about who he liked at the end of all that. But thank you for your running commentary. Should we just be upstanding just for fewer than 60 seconds, just very quickly? And what I'd encourage everyone to do is fill up these empty seats. Because I think if you're standing up here giving a talk, don't worry about me, but do come on down, because we'll fill these empty seats. Go on, why not? Come on, here we go. Particularly come into the centre block, I dare you. Come on. Yeah, I see what's happened here. Come on, why not come down to the front? Go on, just for this final one. It'll be good, here we go. Here's Minter. Minter's in the house, come on. Are you in the aisle, Minter? No, here we go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, come on down to the front, here we go. Collerton Grammar. Matthew, marks out of 5? It's going all right. Yeah, good. Right, any more for any more? There you go. Please have a seat. Zach Barfield, the suited chef. Used to seeing him on our TV screens. So a smarter person than I remarked earlier, I'll tell you who it was Gabrielle Lane-Peters. She said, and this is one for people interested in curatorial brilliance, and that's got nothing to do with me. Gabrielle remarked that we've bookended the day with brands that speak to our childhoods and also to the future as well. So who did we start the day with? Lego. And so we move now to a brand many of us will know, which is Beano, reinvented through Beano Studios. Close to my heart, I might add. Funnily enough, I dropped out of university, but I did work at Disney World once upon a time, and that's where I got my degree, from the Disney University. That's absolutely true. So I literally have a Mickey Mouse degree. That is true. I also worked on the launch of Bob the Builder many years ago. There you go, I'm getting it all off my chest now. And I'm fascinated by what this next organisation does next. So I know we'll give a very warm Light Minds welcome to our final speaker of the day. He is the editorial director and head of product for Beano Studios. Please welcome Mike Goldsmith.
Thank you. Thank you. So, when I asked Ollie for a keyboard, does anyone else wonder why that's here all day? I don't know. I did actually mean for my computer. So, there we go. So, as it says up there, and actually up there, which I only found out about half an hour ago, my name's Mike Goldsmith. I'm editorial director and head of product for Beano Studios. What does Beano Studios mean? I'm going to tell you that in a second. What I'm going to talk to you about is putting the audience first, especially when you don't know who they are. But first off, a video. Go on, you're going to play?
Yeah, please bring up your illusion cake.
I think what you produced there is a work of art.
I love the way you've used the Rice Krispies, and then the eggs look incredible. I'm dying to see what it looks like inside.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Wowzers. That's excellent there.
I want some with the chocolate in.
Your sponge is spot on. I love the colour you got inside.
Your brain is telling you one thing and your taste buds telling you another. I think it's got good banana flavour.
That design is incredible.
Thank you and good night. I'm off. There you go. So, that's great. There was another one about FIFA, but I thought we're cutting it a little bit short. Now, that's great, but why is this big bloke from the Beano talking about Bake Off and rather than Dennis the Menace or Banana Man? So, I'll get to that, I promise. But first of all, we're going to meet some people. So this person is Camilla. Now, Camilla is 9 and she's in year 5. She's got a Nintendo DS and, parents wait for this one, she has her own App Store password despite that 13+ barrier and need for payment. She loves Little Mix, she loves Ariana Grande, she's influenced by her older brothers and sisters, she collects Smiggle backpacks and she's starting to get into clothes, so she's probably going to be in Primark around the corner very soon. As might Sam be. Now, Sam is 7 and he's in year 3. He adores Star Wars. He has the coolest bedroom, if you can see it up there. It's absolutely amazing. And he loves making Lego creations. Basically, he pays James's Christmas bonus. Now, nearly all of Sam's screen time is on YouTube and not TV, as we understand it. And his heroes are his dad, Dan DTM, and Ed Sheeran. And finally, this is Alfie. Alfie is 9 and he's in year 4. He loves football, his PlayStation 4, and his iPhone 5S, which he got from his mum. Now, mum and dad manage Alfie's screen time a lot, but he still watches Netflix and YouTube, as well as shows like I'm a Celebrity with his parents. Now, these are our Beano trend spotters, and there is a hell of a lot more of them. Now, the Beano trend spotters are an ever-changing group of primary school children from a wide selection of schools and areas. We ask them about what they love, what they hate, what they play, what they listen to, and what they watch. We change members as children move on to high school in year 7, and they're replaced, ensuring that we have fresh voices and fresh opinions. The Beano trend spotters are our direct lines into kids' lives at home, at school, and at play. Now, we know they like Dennis the Menace. We know they like Minnie the Minx, and we know they like the Bash Street Kids. Who doesn't? But how do we discover what else they like? Should we be covering Minecraft and not FIFA? Should we be actually covering Strictly and not Bake Off? Should we be, whisper it, covering Roblox instead of Lego? Or actually, should we not be covering all of those at all? So, here in the audience, I can barely see, I'm being blinded by that light. Hands up here, who knows what a fidget spinner is? Well done. Loser. Right. In this term, they are dead. Them, slime's still there, fidget spinners, kids don't care. Kids going into year 5 and year 6, they do not care. And as editorial director, I need to know that before anyone else in this room. Now, the results from the Beano Trend Spotters are fed to the whole of Beano Studios, whatever their job. Head of finance, head of marketing, it doesn't matter, it's fed to them. The company can ask specific questions when appropriate. Results are given out by a MailChimp newsletter to the whole company, and posters like this are splattered all over our offices wherever you go. It's also not just the trend spotters. It's backed up by a calendar of constant school visits, paid research, youth TGI, online testing, and, last but not least, web analytics from our own Beano.com and the accompanying app. And that's where you'd expect us to get to, right? Beano.com. That's where all of the great data is going to be. So why so much qual instead of quant? There's a couple of reasons. Now, one reason is no one's really tried to do what we're doing now, but before that, the real big reason is we've only just started. So a little quick introduction to Beano Studios. Now, Beano Studios, why am I here, right? It's an 80-year-old startup. Beano launched in 1938, and DC Thompson, which owns the Beano, was founded in 1905. But Beano Studios is 1 year and 3 days old as of today. We're now 50 people, and we're based on Fleet Street in DC Thompson's old building. We are the last media owner on Fleet Street, and we have a bloody big Beano flag flying outside quite proudly, which feels very good in a world of lawyers. And our mission is the transformation of a heritage brand to the modern multi-channel landscape. So there are two parts to the Beano Studios business. There's number one, a digital network, that's web, app, and the various platforms that you can see behind me. And number two, an IP business. So we have our traditional publishing with comics, that annual that everyone buys still, and books, CP, so character products, and also content studio, that's TV and film, again, which I'm going to talk to you about later. Now, how are we transforming? It's bottling that 80-year-old Beano spirit, the magic of those last 80 years, and applying them to 2017. So that the three things for us is everyday rebellion, popping pomposity, right? Big laughs, fun, frivolous, and unlimited imagination. So championing creativity with our users, whether that's lateral or original. And to do this, we must obsess about our audience. Now that's great. Now we've got a legacy that we can leverage. We have 75% brand awareness, 80% trust with parents. You kill for those stats, right? Love for those characters. Fantastic dinner last night. I couldn't move when people asked me about Dennis the Menace. Maybe the red and black stripy jumper, but who knew? The love for the comic. 27 million people in the UK have read the Beano, and a copy is still bought every 17 seconds. It's a great print business, 34,000 ABC, half of those are subscribers. Fantastic, right? But we cannot rely on old readers and nostalgia. And today's kids have a 3-year field of reference. We just did an article to accompany that video about Noel Fielding from Bake Off, right? No kid knows who this bloke is. They've no idea what the Mighty Boosh is. How do you write an article like that? You just say, who's this weird neon scarecrow on your screen, making jokes about cakes, right? So, we want to know about our audience, and there they are, aren't they lovely? And while we are a startup, it's great. We've got Google Analytics, and we've got Chartbeat and Parsley and all the other things that you would have as a publishing firm to discover what your users are doing. Wrong. We've got that. We can't get the data. Beano.com is aimed at a 6 to 12-year-old kids' audience, and we are a proudly COPPA-compliant site. Now I'm going to read something out here. So COPPA is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998. And it's a federal law designed to help parents remain in control of what personal information websites and other online services can collect from young children. Translated, it's the US, and it still applies to us, but it's the US equivalent of GDPR that Rachel mentioned in one of the first sessions of the day. Translated again, it means that we cannot get the quant data that a business normally relies on. COPPA means that we cannot track our users and ask for data such as their full name, their physical address, their email address, GPS location, device ID. Can't find out what they're on. Oh my God. Audio, video, photos of the child, and cookies that allow us to identify the user across sites, i.e. remarketing cookies. We cannot use those. We can track them in a session, but not much beyond that. Now that should have any devs or analytics or data people in the audience with a cold shiver up their backs. What it also means is, COPPA means we can't ask children to share content on social media because social media is aimed at a 13+ audience. Yes, some children are on social media, despite the sign-up being 13+, but we can't target them directly. And this makes marketing, let's say, a challenge, right? And if all that wasn't bad enough, they're bloody kids. Our users are kids, and kids change their mind, what they're into every 5 seconds. Everyone's got a kid who started a judo class, and next week, that suit's in the cupboard, next to the Bart Simpson skateboard, right? So that's why we do Trend Spotters, and that's why we at Beano Studios are obsessed with data and our audience. Our under 13-year-old audience, our startup nature, and COPPA means that we have to go above and beyond to make sure we understand our users. We can't just rely on a GA dashboard that we open up every morning. It's not good enough. And that's why I think we have a unique insight at our fingertips about a new screen-focused generation that is quite widely unknown in the publishing business. So what do we know about them? We know a few things. We know family is really important. Watching the TV set is often seen as a family activity, and children rarely watch alone. That means Bake Off, that means X Factor, that's Simon Cowell under that slime, which is what we did. It's the Beano, it's what we meant to do, right? And that means Strictly. Digital, YouTube and Netflix have changed the face of TV viewing forever. Now, TV viewing is still thriving, just via a greater proliferation of devices and platforms. But kids do not distinguish between linear TV and YouTube or Netflix. Third of all, mobile. Universally, our core audience, that 6 to 12-year-old audience, has access to a mobile device. Our organic traffic is a 60-40 split of mobile versus desktop. Kids are on phones earlier and earlier and earlier. It used to be when they went to high school, that's when they'd get a phone. Right now, they're getting a hand-me-down iPhone 5S, you saw earlier, and that's what that is. I did my research when I got my photos. Normally with the SIM removed. So they're just on Wi-Fi at home, and then when they go out, they're relying on an offline experience with an app, maybe caching something. Sometimes these guys are tethering to their mum's phone or their dad's phone as well. So don't think this isn't a sophisticated audience. And indeed, they're not officially on social, but some of them are. We know they're on Instagram. We know they're on Snapchat, and anyone who has ever looked at Snapchat knows that's a dark art. You can't get the stats out of that. And there's a few of them in terms of Twitter, specialist publishing community. If they really like Little Mix, they really like Taylor Swift, they will go there and follow certain hashtags and @ signs. And a little bit of Facebook, but that's really for the olds, right? And then finally, sounding like every report you've been sent through into your inbox this week, video. Video is everything. Video is projected to claim over 80% of all web traffic by 2019, and our insight proves that out. In just 12 months, we've used our strategy to commit to producing 14 videos a week in-house out of our own editorial team. So you have that data and an awful lot more. What do you do with it? And again, I think echoing some of the presentations today, do something brilliant, be innovative, experiment, try something new. And that's a spirit that has led us in just over a year with a really lean setup. Remember, 50 people, and that includes HR and finance and all of the normal things. So in just over a year, promising audience number. Many people have visited the site more than we have expected to have done by this stage. And we just recently got a highly commended and a very nice chicken dinner at the 2017 Broadcast Awards. We've made over 2,000 pieces of content, 450 videos. We produce 30 quizzes or puzzles a month, countless listicles and articles, and over 16,000 drawing submissions through our Drawing Challenge app. So, what do you do? What's innovative? It's a few ideas. So number one, examples of some great content. React to trends and fast. Unicorns and rainbows, right? You can't go into Primark without finding those on a hoodie or finding them on a onesie. Move fast. That's a video about the new trend for unicorn food. Fantastic. But do it with your own tone of voice if you're going to react to a trend. I just showed this to someone and they thought it was Boris Johnson in a kind of bojo way. Does anyone know what that is? Not the who's wearing it. It's a Jojo bow? Yes? Is that what you're going to say? You wouldn't say that. Sorry, it's hard to see you. So a Jojo bow, very expensive for a very thin piece of material that makes your child look ridiculous, and massive last year, absolutely massive. But with a Beano, what we're going to do, just do a guide to buying a Jojo bow and some affiliate links that we're not allowed to embed in our site, right? No, we're going to stick it on Donald Trump. That went mental, and that went viral as well. Really, really happy to see that. But with Trump, it's an interesting one. At the top of our villains, things like Halloween, it's not, oh, I've heard about Pennywise the Clown from It. It is Donald Trump. These guys, our audience, they might be 6 to 12, but they know about Donald Trump, they know about Brexit, they know about Boris Johnson, and their job is to kind of take the mick. So don't dumb down. Okay, we've got an animated GIF sticking sprouts in his face, but you know, we're not going to dumb down and say, really, do kids really want to know about Donald Trump? Yes, they do. But then again, don't dumb down. Yeah, you know, don't be too serious. So we're not The Week Junior, which is a fantastic publication. I'm a subscriber. I thoroughly recommend it. However, everyone likes a fail video, right? But a lot of those are trapped on YouTube. And what we do is we get the ones where we get permission and we run them as video on our site again. So nice snackable content to try and rile Jason up by saying that word. So what else? Play to your strengths as well. Hopefully this speaks to everyone here. What have you got that no one else has got? Now that could be part of your SEO strategy. No one else is going to be able to search for the numbskulls and have as much numbskulls content as I've got. I've got a brilliant archive up in Dundee full of that. So the first thing that I did when I joined the Beano is make sure that our comic viewer, First of all, credited the artist and the writer, because again, people are going to be searching Google for that, but also making sure that every image there was visible above the fold and that every image there has alt text as well. That's so important for your visibility to search. And engaging experiences all the time. That's our new game article, which takes a game that would normally be on an app, but we've embedded it on the site as well. It's a really good skateboarding game, playable for free. Getting people in that, and if you want dwell time, that's the kind of experience that you're going to have to deliver. Go to your audience, talk to them, find out what they want, and then give it to them. Don't give it to them where they play it in a little window. Make it go full screen. UX is absolutely key here. Interactivity, again. That's our Minecraft quiz. Other quizzes are available. I found out which member of Little Mix I was this morning. Perry, if anyone wants to know. It's good. You can see, right? It was probably the grey hair. But interactivity is absolutely key for our audience. One of the early lines we said at Beano Studios was that we were BuzzFeed for kids. And anyone who's gone on BuzzFeed has filled in about 7,000 quizzes. And we know that kids love doing that as well. Again, just reacting to that data. What do you like? And then making sure that we give them more of it. And that's what I mean by this. Segmentation. Be really obvious. When we started off, we were just like a mix of all like random things, animated GIFs flying all over the place. And kids, they don't mind clicking. They're not scared of clicking. But they need to know that they're going somewhere. So this is the drop-down nav from the new navigation bar. All really obvious. We search those channel names. Awesome people rather than celebs, because that's what our users call them, right? They don't really see any difference between Pogba and Zoella. They're just their friends on YouTube. So that's what we're trying to do. When we have segmentation like that, and just breaking content down into channels, just by tagging, right, it seems really obvious. If you go onto the homepage, before we had this segmentation, it was about 4 or 5 page views per session, all very nice. If you get them into a segment, you get them into a channel where they just want to know about apps and gaming, or they just want to know about pranks, that page view per session number goes up to between 15 and 20, no matter what device you're on. It's fantastic, just by going in and looking at user journeys and talking to people. And above all, as I said earlier, video, video, video. I think I'd choose Zane, but I really like Harry as well. What do I do? This is the brand new player that we've got on the site. We just moved all of our video over to JW Player, which is really good, highly recommended. And this is a new video playlist that we have at the top of the home page and every landing page on the site. Everything gets a bespoke feed of video. Again, just based on tagging, really simple, done by the editorial team. Now, we turned on autoplay here. And I know there's some issues around UX with mobile and autoplay on video. You would expect autoplay would send your video views up and your completion rate down. No, completion rate stayed pretty much the same. Kids love video. They're used to autoplay on YouTube. I'm not annoying anyone. I'm not giving them an experience that they're not getting anywhere else. Again, if that was the case and the stats came back and told me that people were turning off, I wouldn't do it. I can't burn that audience that quick. So, you can tell me what that is in a second. At Beano Studios, we ask readers what they want and we give it to them. But we sprinkle that with inspiration, a bit of gut feel. I'm from print publishing, it's all based on that. And hopefully a little bit of talent with fun. We're against the norm, subvert expectation. That's no different really to what we've been doing for 80 years. And next year will be our 80th and our biggest ever. We've got some mad plans. But by continually talking to our viewers, as well as our readers and our users, whatever channel they're on, we want to make it the best for both us and for the audience. So we've got big plans, which includes this. So, who knows what that is? I can't hear. Someone speak up. It's a Nasher badge. Where would you get that from, sir? You're in the Beano fan club, the Dennis the Menace fan club. There was a Minnie the Minx fan club as well for a little bit. These have got googly eyes. You can find them on eBay. It's quite easy to get them, but still with the googly eyes. Now, we will be introducing that for our 80th. That has such massive resonance. Cue the mad grumbling, right? But it also means it will be the introduction of registration on Beano.com, which really will enable us to learn a whole lot more about their readers because we will have parental permission, which is fantastic. However, the biggest thing we're currently doing will be coming to a screen near you a little bit sooner than that. It's Dennis and Nasher Unleashed. It's on CBBC from November. It's really good. I can say that. I've got millions of kids. and I sit and watch the load of rubbish sometimes that I have to watch because you do. It's really good. Here's a little taster. It's just gone up on the website, not put it on a presentation ever before, and I'll say thank you very much. Here we go.
Dennis is back! Absolutely! Brand new Dennis and Nasher Unleashed! Find out more at Beano.com.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike Goldsmith.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, don't go away, by the way.
I won't go away.
We fell into your fidget spinner trap, didn't we?
Easy.
Is there something that we should know about that we can name drop here and there and be one step ahead?
There's a really interesting one. And, well, this is it. Everything's battling to be the new fidget spinner. There's one called Sound Moves.
Sound Moves?
Which is like, how can I put it? It's like a series of wristbands and things that you can put on your arms and legs and kind of beat out a rhythm, a lot more rhythmically than that. Yeah. There's another one called Makuru, which is like that, empty plastic, and you kind of flip it. And it's another fidget toy. Comes out of Makuru. And it's as hard to do as it is to say. And at the moment, what we're doing is we're going, here it is. Kids, what do you think of it?
Yes.
But the first thing we did is we tried to get a load of cats to play with it. So, you know, new fidget spinner not popular with cats. You heard it here first.
We heard it here first.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, Mike Goldsmith.
Thank you.
Good. Good. And Dennis and Nasher coming to see BBC. Yes. Look out for it. Give me something to watch other than Topsy and Tim's mum. Good. So, what a day. I mean, I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow account of what's happened, but I would just say, because many of our speakers are still here, we started off with Kareem from the council. I am going to name most of the speakers because they're mostly here. James from Lego. Rachel on her sales funnel. Robert from Stephen Scone. Minter, or Speed Dial as I call him, took us around the world and back. Our brilliant panel, Janet, Aji, Julie, Darren, Rachel. David from Alexa, really got our minds racing, didn't he, around voice. Dupsy, I thought, was brilliant before lunch. Jason from LinkedIn. Lisa from Moo, and then, of course, Darren and Mike. Can we have a round of applause for everyone that's spoken today? I've really enjoyed the conversations we've had and reading some of your reflections online, so thank you. Also, I'm very happy that one of the best photographers in Britain, Paul Clark, has been here capturing it, so have a look for his photos, because he is the best of the best. I'm going to sign off. I hope you'll join us for a drink at the Hotel du Vin, if you've got time, just for a quick one for the road, and that you're going to have a fantastic weekend. So hopefully we've taken you from the practical through the quixotic and back again, and some fun, but also some very thoughtful content, in my personal opinion. For you, I hope Like Minds on Reflection will be a great day of the year. And I recognise that on one level it is a day, and I hope it will stretch to much more than that because of the conversations that have been started here. I just finished by welcoming back somebody who I've seen at first-hand experience to be someone for whom Like Minds is a 365 days of the year thing. I wouldn't say obsession because that sounds unhealthy, but he completely bleeds the spirit of Like Minds, and that's why the final word has to go to its creator and curator, Drew Ellis.
Thank you very much, Ollie. And really, we must give Ollie a massive round of, mustn't we? I mean, what a day. Fantastic speakers. I'm not going to bore you all with 1,000 thanks because basically I would like a drink. So do come and join me, Hotel du Vin. Just if you find somebody local, if you're from out of town, they'll lead the way. But a few special personal thanks. Rebecca, where's Rebecca? She's over there. My intern. Fantastic help, thank you so much. Thank you obviously to the sponsors because without them this couldn't happen, and especially thank you to the speakers because they were the people that really provided us with such amazing content. Next year, 2 days, back here, probably September. I'll announce the date in the next month or so. So if you've enjoyed it, please spread the word. If you haven't, it was all Ollie's fault. Thank you.